well. Then after that, trying my hand at a software startup, which failed. So I've got definitely the failure under my belt. And then in 2005, was looking for what to do next, and looking for companies to buy. And so I evaluated companies for about 6 months as I was looking, and then came across Kookaburra, which at the time was a small distributor of sheepskin boots, all made in Australia. And it was about the right size. I mean, I had been following that market. I was a shareholder of Deckers at the time, from watching Motley Fool during those days. And so I made the jump. So I jumped in with both feet. Didn't really know anything about footwear business or the solid consumer goods industry, but jumped in and started learning very quickly.
Did you put money into this to buy it?
Oh yeah.
So you have savings, and you just threw the money in, and saying, I don't really know a lot about this, but it seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
How much?
I'm not gonna go into numbers. Sorry.
Oh man.
But it was pretty risky.
Yeah. I mean, it was risky, but I liked the trajectory, and it was a size that was achievable at the time, and I did feel like I knew something about the market, having followed Deckers for a while. But
why were they selling?
It was, so there's a big trend going on, on the fashion side. But I was a customer, and in fact, the first thing I did when I saw Kookaburra is I went out and I think Montecito Sports was a retailer, so I went out and bought a pair, wore them around, bought a pair for my wife, and so really dove in and tried to learn a little bit more about it. But my thinking at the time was, the look was sort of an anti-fashion look, chunky UGG look, right? But they're so comfortable. I mean, and it's sort of like denim. Once you have worn a pair, and you have a pair, I mean, it's one of those things that's always going to be in someone's closet. And I've talked to many consumers over the years, and they've got their pair that they that's 3 versions back that they use for gardening, and the second version back is right. So the people love their sheepskin boots, especially sort of coming around wintertime as it is now. So in any case, when I jumped in, I really thought I was getting into a classics business. I mean, historically, 80-90% of the business was the classic form, that same, short versus tall. It was, is it going to be sand or chestnut or black this year? I mean, it was really I thought that style of business, same product year after year. And what I found out was that the opportunities ended up being all on the fashion side. So we had a couple of customers in 2006 timeframe that would buy our boots and then modify them. They would screen print them with tattoo influenced designs, or take them and stitch leather patches on the back and things like that. And as I went through trying to collect funds after we had sold boots to these folks, and waiting 90 days, I realized they didn't really have the finances to really do that business. So I turned it around and instead licensed the designs from my customers, and brought those items back into our core line, and then took them out on the road with me to trade shows and sold them as part of the Kookaburra line, co-branded with each of these other companies. And it was really those boots, the heart and soul boot, or with the crosses on the back. It's all sort of tattoo influenced stuff before Ed Hardy destroyed that market. Back when it was still a Malibu market instead of a Jersey Shore market. But that's what got us originally into like Neiman Marcus. The price points were $400, and it really drove our growth quite substantially year over year. And so that was the point where it became an issue of, well, how am I going to manage growth like this? Because in a very seasonal business, we needed to buy our inventory and essentially have it all, in September, and sell it all through the season. But there's cash flow implications here when you've got a business that's growing at 50 or 100% year over year, and it's also seasonal, so you need to have all that stuff come in all at once. So the first thing was doing factoring. I don't know if you guys are familiar with factoring, but in a wholesale business, I mean, that saved our bacon any number of times. We would get in orders from top end customers, be able to turn those into letters of credit for factories, and once the goods landed and shipped, turn those invoices into cash, on a 2-day basis, rather than waiting for 60 or 90 days, and really helped with the cash flow.
Did you have someone internal who was an expert at that, or did you outsource that decision, or did you figure it out? Okay, so you figured it out.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Hats entrepreneur.
Yeah, I was definitely wear all hats early on. I mean, I mean, it was me and 1 or 2 other people packing boxes. I mean, it was still very small early on. As we got bigger, I ended up bringing in outside investors in 2008, which I thought was going to be to support our ongoing growth, and it turned out that it was to prevent the company from going under during the 2008 and 2009 timeframe. Which I mean, the other thing I got pretty good at, we were still sourcing from Australia at this time, was currency management, because we had to purchase everything in Australian dollars, and the Aussie, I guess when I started, was about 75 cents. Had creeped up to about 80 or 85 cents per dollar, and in 2008, right when everything hit the fan, during the financial crisis, the Aussie went through the floor, which I was thrilled at, right? I mean, it reacts to volatility that way, and so the Aussie's down at 62, 65 cents. I'm like, whew, that's awesome. I mean, now my cost of goods is cut 30%, right? So I'm able to hold the line on prices, maybe even decrease a couple of prices, going into the trade shows in January, booking orders, and I'd always been doing currency management by buying forwards, with people like, it was originally Roosh, and it got bought up by Travelex, worked with Afex, and so but essentially you buy the currency for delivery 9 months down the road. Sometimes you pay a little premium, sometimes you get a little benefit depending on what the interest rates are for the relative currencies. But in any case, you can lock in your pricing for the foreign currency. And what I learned the hard way in that 2009 timeframe was that in times of volatility, they won't sell you the forward. So yeah, Travelex came back and said, well, we'll sell you Aussies for 3 months out, but we won't sell them for 9 months out. Sorry. So it didn't matter the price, and they wouldn't sell the forward. And so that year, we ended up, rather than paying 60 or 65 cents for our Aussies, we ended up paying, I think, on average about 98 cents, which was a painful year. But lesson learned the hard way. It made it imperative to begin moving our sourcing. And I had come to the realization over time that made in Australia was something that only a tiny fraction of our consumers actually cared about. I mean, it was something that was a differentiator for us, but no one really cared that much. So that gave us the opportunity to begin shipping the sourcing. I made a couple of key hires who had the right connections and on the design and sourcing side, and we began that transition over to China and Vietnam for manufacturing, and stopped doing the modification of sheepskin boots here in Santa Barbara, which we had been doing, and began that process of becoming more than just a shearling boot brand, and introducing our first summer collection in 2010, and branching off into other styles of shoe, so it was right around that time as well. We expanded our international distribution, and found a couple of key distributors in Japan in particular has been really key for the company. I guess a big part of this I haven't really touched on, but we have had a lot of celebrity following, which has been to some extent helpful in the United States, but when you look at international, Europe doesn't matter at all. They don't care. In Asia, I could watch I could watch spikes on our website, track incoming sales calls for an item and say, all right, so who wore it this time? Because I'm getting calls from my my Japanese clients. I'm seeing spikes to sales with multiple pairs to Asian customers in the United States, and every time I was able to go and find the celebrity who had worn it, maybe blogged about it in Japan or something like that. And so we really did put together a strategy to try to maximize that.
Was that initial celebrity engagement all organic, or did you have a PR company, or were you using, what tools were you using to create that opportunity?
Right. So originally, back in 2005, 6, 7, it was primarily organic. We did start to do some stuff ourselves. We sponsored the ESPY Awards. We did an Emmy gift lounge, and so we were backstage at the Emmys one year, which was quite an interesting experience. And I still love the photo I had with the Smothers Brothers, but they're not really our target customer. But it was still a high point for me getting to meet the Smothers Brothers. But but what I found was that doing stuff like that, first off, it's very expensive, and second, it really is a scattershot. You're spending a bunch of money on product, you're giving some to everybody, and you really don't have any idea if what you've got there to give is going to match anyone in particular's style, and then you're giving that product to 80% of the people, even though they're wonderful celebrities who come through, they're not going to really help, right? So had the very fortuitous event of Ken Liu, his PR company KenWorks came and pitched me, and he was a real key for that for us. So he has all those celebrity contacts, either to the celebrity directly or to their parent or to their assistant, and his gift is that he has a sense of their style. So he, his hit rate on sending the right item to the right celebrity, rather than just wasting product in a sort of scattershot way, was way better than we'd ever done before. So we still probably spent $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year on product that we would gift to celebrities, but Ken got it to them much more effectively. So yeah, I think having the right PR company for your target market is really key. So going through international, in the last couple of years, we in 2014, I think, finally got some traction with Nordstrom. So we were, had tried many times to get into Nordstrom. In fall of 2014, we finally did get on Nordstrom.com, which was big for us, and they became instantly our top 2 or 3 customer.
Did you have to do it through Dropship first?
We did Dropship first, yeah. Yeah, and it was all Dropship for Nordstrom.
So you proved yourself, and then they started giving you orders.
Well, the transaction with Decorators is in between, right? So I believe we would have started getting orders, but it was just last year.
Got it. Okay.
But that could be one thing that got us on the radar a little bit more. I mean, we're always on the radar, but and then the other big event.
What does it come down to get into a giant retailer like that? Does it come down to the right moment where you hit the right buyer and they're just like, yeah, or do they want to see like sales progress from you and revenue growth? Do they want to see like social media metrics go up? I mean, there must be like a reason, or is it total luck, or is there something else?
It's not luck. what they're looking for is, I think it's two things. They're looking for the quality and the style of the item and a fit for what the buyer believes will go with their customer base,
Which is subjective.
which is very subjective for the buyers. But they're not going to put their reputation on something that they don't believe in. But on the other hand, I think that they have all started now to pay very close attention to the metrics that are readily available for our website traffic, all of our social media presence. They'll look at how many people are searching for our brand plus Nordstrom, how many people are searching on Nordstrom's site for our brand and not finding it. So they, and Zappos has done this for a long time as well. They definitely will look at what is the volume of demand among their consumer base for any brand.
Interesting.
And so, for any brand, I think it's really the core is building your own consumer base first. I mean, and it always has been, and it took me a long time to come to that realization, given that I started at Calibra as a wholesale brand, but I wouldn't start a brand as a wholesale brand today. I mean, direct consumer, yeah, every time direct to consumer. And then, of course, our other big news last year was we finally got Oprah's attention. So that was a very big deal for us as well. She selected one of our boots as her one of her favorite things for 2014.
How'd that happen?
Again, it was Ken Liu and his team. They had been in conversation for all the brands they represent with the people who are editing the magazine and the list. And I think always they've had year after year presented them with stuff, gotten feedback, and finally made the breakthrough. And I think for Oprah in particular, she's looking for something that it's got clean lines, classic styling, something that she's happy to wear herself, and and she does always get a pair of or whatever it is for herself and wear it, and she has to like it or it's never going to make it, right? But I think she's looking for broad appeal among her fans. So if your product is still too niche, then it's maybe not going to be the right moment yet. And it took us getting to a product which both she liked and she felt was had a broad enough appeal. The challenge for us was, so yeah, we found out that she was interested. We knew that there was maybe two different shoes that it could be, and we're finding this out in August and September, right? We've placed all of our orders for production already in March and April, and so here we are in August and September, and getting confirmation sort of the end of September, beginning of October, and we're like, okay, well, what do we do now? We really would love to have like 10 times more pairs of this style, and so the impact of it for us was, we went out to our sources, actually developed a second source in Mexico to build additional product so that we could potentially fulfill it, and we ended up selling through everything within, I think by Black Friday we were sold out of that item, and then went into pre-sales, promising delivery end of January, mid-February, because we have, that's the lead time when you're looking at shoes.
How much was that boot, Jeff?
The retail on that was right around $250, I believe.
$250.
Yeah.
Which is a little higher than your average price point on the line.
No, I mean that was right in for the winter line. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, our range for winter was sort of 170, 180 up to 350.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, spring summer was substantially lower.
Of course. Yeah.
So we're coming up on almost 9 o'clock. I want to let you finish your story of where you guys are now, and then we'll have some time for Q&A if anybody wants to stay, if you still have time.
Yeah, so coming into 2015, our angel investors have been very supportive. They were in, I think, a lot longer than they thought they were going to be. And we're looking at needing to raise some additional funds anyway, but they were looking for an exit event, and so we chose to look for that, and we're fortunate that Deckers was interested. So I can't say a lot about the acquisition because there's confidentiality. But what Deckers has publicly announced is that they are going to reposition the line. So they're going to be lowering the price points, and it's going to be priced below UGG. And this is something that we had considered doing many times, and it's a common thing for brands, if you build some of that cachet with the celebrities and everything, to go down to a mass market. But you really can only do that once, to use that cachet to drive volume. And in order to do that right, you've got to do it with some mass, because you've got to have the capital and the the sourcing power to get the margins that you need, to get the volume that you need. And we just never felt that we could do it. But I think the brand is in good hands with Deckers, and I think they'll do quite well with it.
Was it difficult for you, having shepherded this company for so long and literally packing boxes with your own hands, to then turn the reins over to an investor to exit? Was that hard?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I haven't had the experience yet of a child leaving for college, but there's a little bit of separation anxiety and a little bit of sweet and sour. But on the other hand, it's really a lot less stress.
Yeah, I bet.
And what's next for you?
Well, I haven't really decided yet. I've thought that I really should remind myself how to code, which I've left by the wayside for a long time. I've long been interested in citizen science, so I haven't really decided yet. But
Thanks, Jeff. That's an awesome story.
Right.
Yeah.
Buying and selling a company doesn't happen very often.
Thank you.
I got a question for you, Jeff.
Sure.
Did you have help, or did you hire help for the transaction, or did you just do it yourself in terms of the negotiation, the documents, the purchase agreement, that kind of stuff?
So the seller had listed with an agent, and it was a little bit whirlwind. I was fortunate at the time that I had been looking at companies and evaluating companies for a while, because I felt like I was ready to make a decision. If I had just started looking, I don't think I would have been able to act quickly. I went and saw the business, met the owners, followed the agent back to his office and wrote an offer. He presented 3 offers the following Monday, which is, I think, a holiday, Memorial Day weekend, and so it was very quick. After that, of course, was the due diligence period, and so that all the details were negotiated after the original offer, and I did have legal assistance. So.
What about on the other side with Deckers?
I was also very fast, and I guess we had legal assistance, but we didn't go and find an agent or anything like that. So yeah, it was very fast.
Is it on me?
That's good.
How'd you deal with, were you worried with competitors and knockoff brands copying your style, or?
Oh, yeah.
How do you deal with that at that level when you're building
Poorly.
a brand
Especially manufacturing in China.
and protecting yourself?
Right. So the answer is that it's really hard to protect yourself. From lookalike product, we had knockoff product all over the place, within 6 months, and a lot of it was just junk, right? All fake, retailing for $20, $25, that kind of a thing. I guess my advice is make sure that you get your trademarks registered in every country that you're manufacturing in, which we fell short a little bit on, in terms of preventing you can sort of prevent counterfeits from coming in. that wasn't really as much of a problem for us. I mean, our biggest counterfeit problems were all overseas. I mean, it was Chinese companies selling locally on places like Alibaba, and so, you can submit, reports to Alibaba and hope that they do it. And, I mean, there's a couple of companies out there that will monitor for you. I'm blanking on the name, but there's one that actually will do recognition of your logo in photos, and alert you and notify you, and they've got automatic takedown agreements with a lot of these marketplaces.
Did you have to shift your marketing campaign to say this product is better because it's made with quality versus the competitors or what's out there, or did you guys didn't bother with that?
So I guess in the shearling boot world, you have several different layers, right? So there's is it real twin face sheepskin is the very top quality, and then you move down and is it lined with sheepskin with a cow suede backing, and then you move down and is it a real wool weave that's attached to the cow skin backing, and then you get down to the very lowest end and it's all faux. And a lot of these materials have improved substantially over time. In particular, the wool with the woven backing, that it's actually very, very good now. It didn't used to be, though. It used to be, 5 years ago it was much worse. So, I mean, we focused a bit on quality and saying it's real twin face sheepskin, but a lot of that comes from just building the position of your brand, and so yeah, I mean, it's hard to make the quality be a differentiator when you're going against someone like Deckers and UGG, though. I mean, they're top shelf, so I mean, you can't really differentiate against them on quality. You can differentiate against the lower end guys, but not against the market leaders.
Coming out of this, do you have any leadership maxims or advice, or is the advice don't make in China, make in Vietnam? What advice would you extract from your last 15 years?
What advice would I extract? Focus on the cash. I mean, manage cash flow. If you don't have to spend, don't spend. It's the cash flow is critical. It's the number one. It's key. Focus on building your customers, and focus narrowly. There's a fantastic article that I read. I think it was republished on Medium, which is where I read it. That talked about the last billion-dollar fashion brand, and it used Lululemon as an example. And I'm going to try to wave my hands around to describe it. So essentially, what they said was that Lululemon grew. They took 10 years to reach $5 million, and that process is the trial and error process. That's how they found their product market fit, was by having all this time with their target market, making things a little bit wrong, and adjusting their product, adjusting their brand, adjusting their messaging to be exactly with their target market. And then it took off, right? And then they were able to expand. And what the article was saying is that if you look at, what's your product market fit, who is your exact customer, and you're building for this person, right? And you're building that product and the messaging for that person, and how narrow that is. Well, once you're a billion-dollar company, your product is not so focused on that one person, right? You've got people out here and out here who are not your exact target customer. But until you're that size, what happens is, starts happening with a big brand like Lululemon is, over here on one shoulder they're getting brands that are focused on people who do Bikram yoga, and over here it's like focused on people who want to wear yoga pants but not do yoga. And there are these niche brands that are coming in and chewing away the shoulders of your target market. Yeah. And so what he's saying is that right now everything is so fast and so open that that first 10 years when you're first finding that fit, as soon as you hit it, within 3 months, your competitors are going to be saying, okay, you've got that fit, let's come in on either side of you, and they'll come in super hyper focused with new startups on either side of you, and that's not necessarily bad, because you can still build, you know, $20-50 million brand that's hyper focused like that, you know, with a much smaller market, but that focus is so key.
Get it right for your first 50
and
customers.
I don't think we ever really got it right. I mean, I'll just step back and say our focus was always way too broad, and you know, I think that's one thing I would definitely do different going back, is I would stay much more hyper focused on a particular target customer.
Got it. Manage the cash and stay hyper focused on your particular customer. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Jeff.
I think next week not next week, the following, Jacques and I were talking a little bit about doing community roundtables, so hearing from everybody. So we are working out how that will work. What we may do is have everyone submit kind of a written version of your elevator pitch, and we'll pick the top 10 or the top 5, or we'll take a look at that, have an elevator pitch situation and then a community roundtable where everybody can contribute what's going on. Because as much as we love hearing from our community leaders, you guys are probably leaders and you just don't even know it. So that's it. So we'll see you guys all again in 2 weeks.